You might be the person everyone relies on, the one who keeps things steady, the one who figures things out, the one people turn to when something falls apart. For a long time, that role probably felt natural. You handled things, you carried a lot, and you kept moving. But lately, something has shifted, and you don't know why. Tasks that used to feel easy now feel heavier. Your energy disappears faster than it used to. And the person who could hold everything together is starting to feel strangely overwhelmed. If that's happening to you, it doesn't mean you suddenly become weak. Something deeper is probably happening. The strong one usually doesn't notice how much they carry. They just do what needs to be done. Manage the schedule, keep conversations steady, solve problems before they escalate, remember details no one else remembers. And often they become the emotional stabilizer in the room too. If someone is upset, they help regulate it. If things feel chaotic, they help bring order. If others feel overwhelmed, they absorb some of that weight. Over time, this becomes normal. So normal, in fact, that the person carrying it doesn't even realize how much energy it takes. Here's the part most people don't see: the collapse of the strong one usually doesn't happen because life becomes harder. It happens because the body eventually stops cooperating with a role it was never designed to carry alone. Holding everything together requires constant attention, constant anticipation, constant adjustment. It means always scanning the environment, always noticing what needs to be handled, always staying one step ahead of problems. That kind of vigilance uses a lot of energy, and eventually the body begins to feel the cost. Energy starts withdrawing. Tasks that once felt simple now require effort. Focus becomes harder. Motivation fades. The person who once seemed endlessly capable starts feeling quietly depleted. From the outside, this can look like burnout. Sometimes it even looks like laziness, or we self label it as laziness. But the strong one almost always misinterprets it in the same way. They think, I should be able to handle this. I should be able to tackle this. Why am I struggling with things that used to be easy? What happened to the version of me who could carry everything? Because their identity was based on competence, on reliability, on being the one who held things together. So when their system stops cooperating, it feels like personal failure. But what if that interpretation is not accurate? Sometimes what looks like collapse is actually withdrawal. Not withdrawal from life, withdrawal from organizing everything alone. The nervous system can only maintain that level of vigilance for so long. Eventually, it begins to conserve energy. It begins to pull back from roles that were built on constant strain. This can feel confusing at first because the identity of the strong one no longer fits the body the same way it used to. But that doesn't mean strength has disappeared. And this is the part many people misunderstand. They assume the collapse means they've lost their strength. But in actuality, it's the beginning of a different kind of strength. The collapse of the strong one often marks a turning point. The moment when a person can no longer sustain the belief that they must hold everything together themselves. For years, that belief may have looked like responsibility or maturity or capability, but underneath it was something exhausting. The sense that stability depended entirely on you. Eventually, the body questions that assumption. And when it does, energy begins to reorganize. Not toward carrying everything alone, but toward something more balanced, more shared, more sustainable. So, if you've been the strong one for a long time and suddenly that strength feels harder to access, you are not necessarily falling apart. You simply may be reaching the edge of a structure your system no longer wants to maintain. And what comes after that structure is often something far more sustainable. Not strength built on carrying everything alone, but rather strength that no longer requires it. We continue from here.